What is up, guys? Welcome back to a new video here on the channel. In this video, so basically how to optimize your performance for your PC in Assetto Corsa and at the same time get the best possible graphics. In this video, we will go over for the settings for a flat screen. And then I'll make another video on the recommended VR settings and also some tweaks you can do to get some extra performance with tools like OpenXR Toolkit, etc. But let's just get right into it. So the tool I'm using right now is called Assetto Corsa Content Manager. It's an amazing tool and basically makes the whole interface so much better and more clean. You can see here easily I can change the car, these sorted like this. You can favorite them. I mean, you can change car in normal Assetto Corsa, but this is just so much easier. I definitely recommend getting this, and it's free. You can change the time easily. Everything is just so simple. And also you will need this for installing mods. It makes everything so much easier. So just go ahead and download it. Content Manager, link in the description below. But let's go to settings and then video. I will not go over the custom shaders patch. I will link my shaders patch in the description below if you want to download it, and I will also link video settings, that. I have played around with it for a while, and I think I've got a good balance. So I ran 100 frames last session. I usually run around, on average, I think I actually hold 140 frames per second. I mean, I have limited it to 144. Let's get into it. So the rendering mode, obviously you always make sure this is on single screen. If you have triple screens, change it to triple screen. But this tutorial is for flat screen. Full screen, this one is, I guess, prefer what you prefer. But just set it to full screen. I don't think that does any performance difference. In some games, I know that full screen could make a difference. Resolution, you could select what you want here, or you could just put in your custom resolution. And then if you want vertical synchronization, VSync, so basically that is supposed to delete screen tearing. If that's something you experience, I recommend taking this option right here. Limit frame rate, I definitely recommend you tick this, because if your GPU can handle it, obviously, to hold this, it doesn't matter. Like, the only thing that it's doing, let's say your monitor is 144 hertz, like in my case. If I run 200 frames, that's 60 frames that's just unnecessary. I don't need that. So I limit it to 144 because just to keep my GPU temps a little bit cooler. Because, I mean, it doesn't decrease the performance of your GPU, so it can only run 144 hertz or 144 frames per second. It just lowers, so it doesn't try and go over that. Now, if it obviously, if it gets, it could still run at like 100, and because it can't get up to 144. But just limit this, I recommend, here and here, to whatever your monitor is set to. If you got a 60Hz monitor, no point in going over 60 frames per second. So now we're gonna move on to the quality section. And the first thing that comes up is MSAA. I put this on 4x. I don't recommend. Some people say you should turn this off. I don't think so, because the game looks much worse with it off. Or it doesn't look worse graphically, but if you look at the white lines next to the curbs and stuff, you can see that it's getting much more, I don't know how, it's like it's more sharp. You can see here, look at right here, you see on the curb, or on the edge of the curb, you can see it's like the edge of the white line is like it's black spaces in between. And then you see on 2x it gets better. So if you got a lower end system, I recommend going 2x because you can see that the performance hit is about 0.56%. Although if you have the system for it, I recommend 4x. As you can see, look at this part of the car right here, and also the tail light. It looks better, in my opinion. And also the trees. I mean, you're not looking at the trees maybe when you're racing, but you can still see some of that. I don't know what we're supposed to call it. Let's call it like line tearing or something. Like the line is tearing apart. You can see now here it's like a lot. It looks really bad in my opinion. And then when you go up to 2x, it's better. And then 4x, it's almost gone. And then 8x, you can see it's barely anything. But the performance it is 10%, so I only recommend that if you got like a very high-end rig. Anti-sotropic filtering, I recommend having on 16x. You can see that the performance it is only 1.2%. And the clarity is much better. Like you can see when it's off, it looks like blurry and stuff. And it looks so much better on. Like you can see the road texture here is awful. You can also read what it actually is that it's doing right here. But I mean, you don't need to know it. Just click this red eye here, and then you just look at the picture. World details. This one is maybe a bit of, I would say, preference. Or if you care about, seeing like the details around. It also adjusts it also adjusts the grass texture. You can see here on minimum the grass looks a bit worse. I mean, it's not mandatory, definitely not. Like these trucks in the background, unfortunately they're from medium, but like if you don't feel the need of seeing like low quality people in the background, just turn it off. The marshals, I mean, they could be a good reference for braking points. Or at least I have a braking point in Monza where there is a marshal standing. So I like that. I keep it on maximum. A performance hit of 3%, which is actually quite a bit. So maybe if you have a low end rig, I recommend turning it down to high or possibly even medium. Because you can see you're not looking at the grass when you're driving. Maybe if you're driving like a slower, like a GT car or something, or a supercar. But I mean, if you're driving a Formula One car, you're not seeing that because you're having your eyes on the road, on the curbs, on the turns, on the apex. So that's not needed. But I mean, I recommend high, possibly medium for even lower end systems. I mean, you can see that basically nothing changes on the grass except some darker green patches here and also some shadows over at the trucks. I mean, low, a lot of things disappear. It kind of feels like a dead environment. So I think medium on a low end, a medium range PC on high, and a very high or maximum. If you got a bit of a higher end, the performance I haven't felt like it's that big of a difference. Moving on to the shadows. So this part is honestly, I feel like kind of preference. I run on 256 by 256. So you can turn it off altogether. No performance hit, of course. So I recommend the spots that I like to look at in this certain these reference images is here at the AC. It must be AC. I think behind the steering wheel. Yeah, behind the steering wheel as well. And then also behind the competitor cars. So look at where my mouse is. You can see around the back of the black Ferrari here. The black car in front of me. It's going over the curb right now. So I'm just gonna cycle through. I think that 32 by 32. You can see here that the resolution is like it's looking really low resolution. Of course, it is low resolution, and that's why it looks like that. But it's really noticeable here. Moving on to 64 by 64, it looks a little bit better. I mean, you can look here. Here it looks, the shininess of that looks really weird in my opinion. Really unrealistic. Moving on to 120. Let's go analyze this. So now we can look at the shadow here. That's going to change a bit more. And also over the grass, you can see that the shadow is changing a bit more. I mean, maybe it's not that big of a difference. You can see the only difference that's noticeable, it gets a little bit darker between 128 and 256. And you can also see in the black card to the left of me, look at the wheel hub here, or on the rim. You can see here it's gray, light gray here. And then when we move on to 256, it's dark. But we can't stay on every single category forever. So let's move on to the next one. Or actually, if you're on like a really low end PC, just turn it off. But otherwise, I recommend running it on 128 or 256. I mean, 128, it has a 3.2% performance hit, or a 3.9 with 256. It's just go with 256. You can see here 2.18 to 3.9. Just run it at 256. 512, then there's a little bit of a bigger impact. And then moving on up here, you see as well. But definitely try it out. Moving on to smoke generation. So I keep this at medium. It could really kill off performance. I keep it on medium also because I just feel like I don't need that much smoke. If you're drifting, of course, keep it on maximum. Show smoke in mirrors, that's just preference. I keep it on because of realism, of course. There's no basically reference images here, but on low end, very low end, just turn it off, honestly. If you're drifting, keep it on maximum and optimize the other settings. Or I mean, if you like seeing smoke when you're drifting, who doesn't like that? I keep it on medium, not because of performance reasons. I mean, it does kill performance a little bit, but not that much. So keep it on how much smoke you want, and then try your way through. And try however you like it. Moving on to reflections, I keep this at 256 by 256. No matter what you're rendering or whatever PC you have, keep rendering distance at 2,400 meters. The performance hit is basically nothing, and it will look weird if you have it on lower. Like, you can look in the reflection of the hood. Like, objects disappear. They're not in the reflection. Moving on to the resolution. So the reflections, I actually have it on lowest. You can see the performance is a lot, but you still want reflections. You can't have your game looking like this. It looks kind of bad. You're not noticing it when you're driving in game. You don't think about it, so just keep it at 256, 256. And then if you want a bit clearer, you can go with 512 by 512. If you have a monster PC, you can increase it further, but I recommend just keeping it 256 by 256. The rendering frequency, if you have a lower end PC, just keep it at 1 or 2 faces. And then if you have a bit of a higher end, you can increase that amount. I keep it at 6 faces per frame. That is basically how many times it's updating per second, the rendering frequency. I don't really, I mean, it's basically, think of it like the frames per second on the reflection. So, 1 and 2 faces per frame looks really weird if you're driving like an open wheeler and you see on the paint in front of you. So I recommend keeping that as high as you can and optimize the other settings. Post-processing, we're going to take last because I'm going to recommend some PP filters, post-processing filters. And also all of this that's included in post-processing. Mirrors, This is also a little bit of preference and at the same time not really, because you can see that you want to have it on, of course, unless you don't see the mirrors in the car, like they're not visible and let's say you're driving the hood cam or something, but you would want to have it. You can see the performance hit is very uh, small between each level, except when you're moving on up to the maximum. But just take a look here in the rear view mirrors. Um, like here it looks kind of blurry. Here you can actually see, like this is clear. Here it's a bit added sharpness, but really I don't think more than 256 by 1024 is needed. I mean, the performance difference is 0.3% from the lowest to the second highest. So I would just keep it to 256 by 1024. If you have a very low end PC, just turn it off. Moving on to high quality mirrors. So this basically adds the details in the mirrors. If you want that, you can turn it on. If you're on a lower end computer, just turn it off. The performance set is 0.8, but I mean, if you have a low end PC, turn it off. So you can see the like mountains here, and then you see the like basically the lights, how the light goes through the windscreen of the car behind. Keep it on if you have a mid to high end PC. If you have a very low end, keep it off or turn it off. So this we're not going to go over because this is for VR if you have an Oculus. This doesn't really, or actually this does affect performance a little bit. So DirectX 10, that's nothing you should touch. Skybox reflection, this is basically what how bright you want the sky to look, to reflect, or how shiny you want the cars to be, basically. This doesn't affect performance. So this is just personal preference. Put it to whatever you like. This, on the other hand, if you would like some more sharpness in your game, you could turn this up to -1 or -2. If you have a lower end to low mid end or low mid range, keep these to 0. If you have a bit of a higher end PC, I recommend turning this to -1 or -2. I haven't done it because I had it on. It's not noticeable in game, so it's not really something you're missing out on. But you can see, look at the sharpness on the edges here on these plants, especially between 0 and -1. It really looks better. And you can see over how well you can see these signs here. And also look at the speed sighting. Like now they are blurry, but now you can really see very well here. This I actually recommend, I know this wasn't about VR, but I recommend putting this to -1 when you're in VR, because really VR, you don't want it to be blurry at all. You want to be able to read all the signs, and that's more difficult to do in VR or the sponsors. Now we're moving on to post-processing filter, and before we begin, I will just show you guys 2 post-processing filters. So we have Realistic Plus. I love this one. It's amazing. And then I also use one called, for VR, I use this one, Natural Mod, which is a very known one. There are some other ones like NMod from SimTribe, a YouTuber. It's really good. And yeah, so I will link Natural Mod and I'll also link Realistic Plus in the description below. Post-processing filters is also like, it's more of a personal preference, whatever you like, what you want focus to be on. And also some post-processing filters, they image shifting lights in cars and on cars. Yeah, the cars shifting lights or shifting indicators very differently. Like they could be miscolored really bad on some PP filters. So that's really important. And also some like the display in the car could be really difficult to see. Let's say you have an open wheeler with a display in the steering wheel. That could be hard that could be difficult seeing on some PP filters. So the first thing you have is overall quality. Keep this to maximum no matter what your system is. It doesn't give, give a big hit on performance. Maybe the difference isn't that big, but why not? Just keep it to maximum because it's the quality of basically everything in the PP filter. We got glare quality. This one, I don't know why I have to maximum because I actually prefer having it to high. So let's go through all the settings. Off, I mean, if you don't like seeing glare from headlights, I guess keep it off. But I mean, this looks good. It looks realistic. So I recommend having that, especially in rain and also night races. Definitely recommend having it on. Obviously, low-end PC, keep it to low quality to medium. On higher end, keep it to high or very high. In my opinion, I almost think there's too much glare on maximum and very high. So I rather have it on high actually and save some performance too. So I'm gonna keep it to high. Depth of field, I don't know why I have that. This one is, in my opinion, it's kind of unnecessary, honestly. Plus, it gives a big hit on performance. So unless you have a pretty good PC, turn it off. Like it doesn't matter that much. Obviously, for replays and stuff, you may want to turn it on, but for me, I'm actually just gonna turn it off. Motion blur, unless you have a beefy PC, don't turn this on. It gives pretty big hit. Plus, the sense of speed you can get in, you can get a sense of speed in different ways. Like there's motion blur built into the custom shaders patch. Saturation, just keep it at 100%. I have messed around with it a little bit, but it doesn't give a performance hit, but I think it's just a weird setting. Heat shimmering, you can see, look around the engine here. It's not something you notice, and I just think it's unnecessary. Like, it looks cool, of course, and for realism, but as you can see, the performance hit is 2.4%. So I recommend turning it off no matter what your spec of PC is. Sunray, this is kind of personal preference and also realism. So if you would like some more beautiful like sunrises, if you're driving in the morning, I recommend turning it on. Plus, it doesn't have a big performance hit, so just keep it on. FXAA, keep it on. Not a big performance hit. You can use SMAA instead, but I think this is experimental or something. Maybe it isn't. Just use FXAA. I think that's better. This is also it's kind of similar to MSAA that we went over before. So if you look at like the lines and stuff, you can see they are kind of smoothing out. They're not as edgy. How you're gonna explain it. So yeah, that is it for this video. And just go ahead and check out the links in the description. You can download these settings that I have, tweak them, or try them out first and then tweak them according to this video. And then I will also link my custom shaders patch settings. And I will see you guys in the next video. So don't forget to subscribe, leave a like on the video.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us.